Hello, Libra. This isn't just another astrology reading. This is a wake-up call wrapped in stardust because something rare, something once in a century, is happening right now, and you're not here by accident. Welcome to Zodiac Whisper Tarot, where the universe doesn't shout, it whispers. And if you're hearing this, then the message is already meant for you. Let me ask you something. Have you been feeling it? That hum beneath the surface of your days? The subtle shift in your dreams, the flickers of déjà vu, the quiet pull towards something bigger than what your current reality shows? That's not your imagination. That's energy. And it's real. Right now, as you're listening, the universe is aligning in a pattern that hasn't occurred in over 100 years. Venus, your ruling planet, is in sacred dance with celestial bodies that activate your destiny in ways most people never experience in a lifetime. And guess what? You're standing right at the center of it. This is what we call a divine crossroad. One path keeps you safe, predictable, familiar, maybe even stagnant. The other? It's wild, magnetic, abundant, full of love, recognition, financial flow, and a level of self-mastery you once only dreamed of. That's the choice this cosmic moment is asking you to make. And here's something else. The number 6 has been repeating lately for a reason. In numerology, 6 speaks of balance, healing, and karmic restoration. It is the number of return, the return of people, of gifts, of opportunities you once thought were lost. Have you been seeing it? Feeling it? Let me know in the comments if this number has been circling around your life lately. The synchronicities aren't just signs, they're summons. Now, allow me to take a moment to speak from my heart. Thank you. Truly thank you for being here. Every like, every comment, every share, and every subscriber opens a portal that brings us closer together in this growing spiritual community we're building at Zodiac Whisper Tarot. Your support is what keeps this sacred space alive, and your presence here today means more than you know. And I promise you, dear Libra, you'll want to stay with me until the very last minute of this reading because what the universe is revealing in this exact moment is breathtaking. It's powerful. And it's tailored specifically for the beautiful energy that you, Libra, carry into the world. So let me ask you this. What did your soul do that brought you here, now? Was it a silent prayer? A wish you made when no one was looking? Or maybe, just maybe, it was your future self, reaching back to guide you here, knowing this would be the moment everything begins to change. You're not here to get lost in someone else's story. You're here to finally reclaim your own. Let's begin. Sometimes, what calls us forward doesn't come from the future, it arrives wrapped in the fabric of the past. And in this moment, Libra, the past is not returning to haunt you. It's returning to invite you into alignment. As we continue this reading, let yourself feel what's moving beneath the surface. Memories that resurface, faces you thought had drifted away, conversations left unfinished. These are not signs of repetition. They are signals of a divine pivot point. Someone or something you once knew may reappear soon, not to repeat history, but to guide you into a new direction that could change the way you view your own story. The presence of the Judgment card reminds us that there are moments in life when we are asked to look within and choose again, not from fear, but from clarity. This is not about second chances in the conventional sense. It's about recognizing the growth you've undergone and choosing what aligns with who you are now, not who you were back then. What once broke you might return not as a threat, but as a tool for liberation. And your task is not to cling or ruin, it's to discern. When the Six of Pentacles appears in a reading like this, it speaks to the rebalancing of scales that may have been uneven for far too long. If someone from your past is returning, ask yourself, is this connection being offered from a place of mutual giving, or is it one-sided as it once was? This card does not just ask you to reflect on what you're receiving, but also on how you've grown in your capacity to give differently, wisely, and without self-abandonment. Relationships, platonic, romantic, professional, are being refined now. The energy is no longer about fixing others. It's about creating mutuality, fairness, and calm in the places that once caused confusion. The Queen of Swords, with her clear mind and sharp insight, enters this reading not to sever, but to clarify. She represents the inner voice you've cultivated through experience, the one that no longer gets lost in emotional fog, but sees truth plainly. As this old presence returns, let her wisdom guide you. Ask yourself, do I feel expanded or diminished when I imagine this re-entering my life? Am I reacting from love, or from the need to resolve something that I've already outgrown? These questions are not meant to divide your heart, they are meant to protect its new shape. In numerology, the number 6 is sacred for Libra. It echoes your essence, harmony, balance, and compassionate correction. When 6 shows up in this form, it often means that something left incomplete is now coming back, not to be fixed, but to be reintegrated or released with love. Sometimes healing isn't about going back to what was. It's about making peace so you can walk forward freely. And perhaps this is the quiet reminder tucked inside all these signs. You are allowed to change your mind. You are allowed to rewrite your story. Even the teachings passed down through generations echo this truth gently. What returns doesn't define you, what you choose now does. Forgiveness is not weakness. And clarity is not cruelty. As you move through this next chapter, you're not being asked to prove anything to the world. You're only being asked to be honest with yourself. If something or someone shows up at your door, pause before opening it. Reflect not on how they made you feel then, but on how you feel now in their presence. Does your breath deepen, or does your chest tighten? Does your soul lean in, or pull away? The answer lives there. And if you feel the stirring of possibility, if the idea of this return feels not like regression, but like resurrection, then perhaps it's not about letting someone back in, but about walking through that door together, with new eyes, and a deeper, quieter kind of love for who you've become. There's a quiet rhythm returning now, Libra, one you've longed to feel again. After what may have been months or even years of financial turbulence, emotional inconsistency, or inner doubt, there is a steadying presence entering your orbit. But this isn't just about money. This is about value, how you see it, how you manage it, and most importantly, how you assign it to yourself. With Venus, your ruling planet, forming a rare and harmonious trine with Uranus, the planet of unexpected breakthroughs, we're seeing the beginning of a new financial cycle, one that rewards inner alignment more than effort alone. And that's the lesson here. Prosperity isn't just earned through hustle, it's received through readiness. This moment, astrologically speaking, suggests that something which was delayed or overlooked, perhaps a loan, a forgotten asset, a promised opportunity, is making its way back to you. But it's not only about receiving a return. It's about being ready to receive it in a wiser, more grounded way than before. The Justice card appears now not as a warning, but as a reassurance. The energy you've put out into the world is coming full circle. If you've given generously, even when it stretched you thin, if you've shown up with honesty and integrity even when it wasn't convenient, this is your season of rebalancing. The scales are not just being leveled. They're being recalibrated in your favor. This isn't about karma in a mystical sense, it's about clarity. The universe has taken note of your patience, your restraint, your effort. Now it's inviting you to step into the reward of that quiet perseverance. The Nine of Pentacles supports this beautifully. It is the image of self-sufficiency, of a life built slowly but with intention. It tells us, you don't need to chase abundance. You've already been planting the seeds. And now, the harvest begins not as a surprise, but as a natural consequence of your earlier choices. This card reminds us to stay grateful, yes, but also confident. The wealth that flows to you is not luck. It is a reflection of your growth, your boundaries, your commitment to becoming more responsible with what you have emotionally and materially. Enter the King of Cups, the emotional master. In a financial reading, this is a rare but powerful figure. He teaches us that financial stability is not built solely on logic, it's built on emotional regulation. When we act out of desperation, we make decisions that sabotage us. When we feel safe, calm, and clear, we make space for clarity, even in uncertainty. The King of Cups invites you to be that steady hand on your own shoulder. He's the version of you that knows, your value doesn't rise and fall with your bank account. It lives deeper than that. This is a powerful moment to not just welcome prosperity, but to prepare for it. Take some time today to review your habits, your spending, your patterns. Try the 50-30-20 rule, 50% of your income for essentials, 30% for wants, 20% for saving or paying off debt. It's not about perfection, it's about awareness. Money is not the goal. Freedom is. Security is. Peace is. In moments like this, it helps to remember the quiet wisdom passed down through generations. Everything has its season. The rain will not last forever. Nor will the drought. When the harvest arrives, receive it with humility but also with strategy. Ask yourself, not just how much can I receive, but how can I use it to grow, to stabilize, to give from overflow rather than from lack. You are not waiting to be rescued, Libra. You are remembering that you've been the anchor all along. And now, as the tides turn, you're being asked to trust that you are worthy of more, not because of what you've lost, but because of how gracefully you've held on. As this journey unfolds, you may begin to notice something soft rising within you, an ache that's not pain, but longing. A gentle curiosity, a quiet hope. Libra, for someone who carries the blueprint of balance within their soul, love has never been a casual desire. It's a sacred equilibrium between giving and receiving, understanding and being understood, showing up and being held. And now, a shift in that energetic space is preparing to take place. But it begins not with someone else. It begins with the relationship you hold within yourself. The Two of Swords arrives as a reminder that you may be standing at an emotional crossroads. Perhaps you felt torn between trusting your heart or protecting it. Maybe there's someone already circling your field, someone you're unsure about, or perhaps the idea of love itself has begun to stir again after a long season of solitude. This card doesn't ask you to rush or choose before you're ready. Instead, it gently asks, can you give yourself permission to feel? Can you remove the blindfold long enough to see what your soul is actually asking for? What follows is the Empress, one of the most powerful archetypes of creation and attraction. She shows up not to promise a fairy tale, but to activate something far more meaningful: your magnetism. Her presence whispers to you that love does not come when you strive for it, but when you embody it. That's someone who sees your value, your real value, not the curated surface eyes already being pulled in by the version of you that no longer hides, no longer apologizes for their softness or depth. And this, Libra, is your quiet superpower, the ability to heal others simply by being honest about your own needs. This energy asks that you turn inward first. Not in isolation, but in intimacy with yourself. Consider writing a letter of love not to a partner, but to yourself. Speak to your own heart the way you've longed for someone else to. Tell yourself what you need to hear. Affirm your beauty, your strength, your journey. It's not silly. It's sacred alignment. The frequency of self-love calls and mirrors, and the clearer that frequency becomes, the clearer your relationships will become too. Then comes the Knight of Cups, the seeker of heart-centered truth. He's a symbol of someone either entering your life or already in it. Leads with emotional courage. This isn't a fleeting romance. It's the kind of connection that speaks your unspoken language, that sits with your silence, that recognizes your effort. Whether you're in a relationship or waiting for one, this energy reflects not just what you want but what you are ready for. And what you are ready for, you will start to attract. In moments like these, where your heart is on the verge of reopening, remember a deeper truth: love is not a reward. It is not a transaction. It is a space where both people give from fullness, not obligation. And real love, the kind that restores you, comes when you stop performing and start receiving. There is a gentle piece of wisdom that says, you don't have to chase what is already yours. What's aligned for you will recognize you, without effort. So if you've been waiting for a sign that love is returning in a way that finally feels safe, nurturing, and equal, this is it. But it begins with how you love you. With how you protect your peace. With how you listen to what your heart has been whispering in quiet hours. And if someone came to mind while you were listening, someone whose name appeared in your thoughts before you even noticed, pause and honor that. You don't need to explain it to anyone. Just feel it. And if you're comfortable, leave a simple symbol below. A heart. An initial. Something small to say, I recognize this energy. I'm open to receiving. Because sometimes, that's all it takes to open the door to something beautiful. Not every crossroads looks dramatic. Sometimes, it's quiet. A hesitation. A breath held too long. A thought you keep circling without ever letting it land. And for you, Libra, who naturally weighs both sides of everything, these moments of internal conflict can become invisible traps. That's what this part of your journey is revealing now: not a punishment, not a threat, but a gentle warning. Indecision, if left unchecked, can quietly cost you everything you've been working toward. The Eight of Swords appears not as a symbol of external crisis, but of internal limitation. It doesn't suggest that someone else is holding you back. It shows that you may be unknowingly doing it to yourself. Fear of choosing wrong can keep you choosing nothing at all. And in trying to avoid regret, you miss momentum. The truth is, there are times when clarity only arrives after you move. The longer you stay stuck waiting for a perfect sign, the further the moment of breakthrough drifts. You don't need to have it all figured out. You only need to trust that forward is better than frozen. That's where the Hanged Man enters the reading, not to scold, but to pause us with purpose. This card is all about shifting perspective. When you feel like you're dangling between two worlds, it's not a punishment, it's a call to surrender your tight grip on control. Sometimes we delay decisions because we expect a perfect outcome. But what if the deeper gift isn't certainty? What if it's courage? What if you're being asked to stop trying to get everything right, and start choosing what feels true? The moon then glides into this sequence, wrapping it all in mystery. It's the card of hidden fears and emotional shadows, but also of deep intuition. And it's here to remind you that you already know. You know what feels aligned. You know what no longer serves you. You know what's been calling your name softly in the background. The question isn't what to do, it's whether you're willing to act, even if you can't yet see the outcome clearly. Life is rarely lit by stadium lights. More often, it's led by flickers of faith. And that's enough. This is the time to do something you've been avoiding. Choose one thing, just one that you've been putting off. Maybe it's a phone call, a decision about a job, a boundary you haven't set, a risk you've been circling. Write down 3 things you've been procrastinating, and pick one. Commit to moving on it in the next 24 hours. Not because it guarantees a result, but because you are the one shaping your timeline. And progress, however small, is always louder than perfection. There's a quiet kind of wisdom that reminds us, delay is not always about time. Sometimes it's about fear disguised as logic. And sometimes the bravest thing you can do is say, I'm not going to wait to feel 100% ready. I'm going to trust that movement creates readiness. God never said you had to have all the answers before taking the first step. But He does remind us gently, in many ways, that we were never created to stay small or hidden. Growth is the reward of those who try, not those who wait. So if this resonates, speak it out loud or write it in the comments. I choose to move forward to free myself from the web of hesitation. That choice, that sentence, that energizes enough to shift the air around you. It's a declaration that you're no longer ruled by fear or delay. That you remember who you are. That you're willing to move, even if your knees shake. And sometimes, that's all the universe needs to meet you halfway. Something begins to shift the moment you realize your voice no longer shakes when you speak your truth. After all the inner tension, all the weighing of options, the longing for balance, we now arrive at the part of your journey, Libra, where clarity becomes action. And in this chapter, the energy moves from contemplation to contribution. You've been refining your sense of value emotionally, financially, relationally, and now the world is asking, what are you ready to build with it? The Hierophant appears here as a symbol of wisdom, structure, and sacred responsibility. He often shows up when you're being called into a new role, not necessarily by title or promotion, but by purpose. Maybe you've been quietly accumulating knowledge, experiences, stories, and insights without even realizing how deeply they've shaped you. Now, there's a gentle nudge from the universe. What you've learned wasn't just for you. It's meant to be shared. Whether through mentoring, teaching, leading, or simply showing up with more conviction, your light is ready to be seen, not in loud declarations, but in the steady way you model what it means to live in alignment. Next to him, the Three of Pentacles invites collaboration. It suggests that your growth at this point is no longer meant to happen in isolation. Others are being brought into your orbit now, not to test you, but to help you refine and expand what you're building. This card is about shared goals, creative synergy, and team energy that feeds your vision instead of diluting it. In astrology, this echoes the influence of Jupiter in the 11th house, where community, not competition, brings the highest rewards. You're being guided to trust your place in the group. But not just any group, the one that recognizes your brilliance and meets it with their own. Then we meet the Magician, the card of activated potential. He doesn't promise that everything will happen instantly. What he brings is even better, the reminder that everything you need to begin is already in your hands. There may have been a time when you believed you needed more experience, more resources, more permission, but that time has passed. The Magician doesn't wait to be chosen. He chooses himself. And Libra, this is your moment to do the same. From a numerology lens, the number 3 present in both the Three of Pentacles and this energetic season represents creativity, expansion, and divine expression. It reminds us that purpose often grows when we stop asking for perfection and start simply showing up. In practical terms, this could mean pitching an idea you've been sitting on, applying for a position that intimidates you just enough to excite you, or offering support to someone who's walking a path you've already mastered. Your influence doesn't require a stage. It only requires your willingness to be of use. Even spiritually, we are reminded that we are not here to hoard our gifts but to multiply them. There's wisdom in knowing when to step back, yes, but also in knowing when to step forward and take responsibility for your light. Leadership in this case doesn't mean controlling others. It means becoming the example of integrity, strategy, and grace that others can trust. When you build from that place, success becomes a natural side effect. So ask yourself quietly, what's trying to begin through me right now? Where is my courage being summoned, not in loud ways, but through consistent alignment? You may already feel the call. And if you do, speak it. Let it take shape. Leave a message in the comments that affirms this part of your path. Perhaps it's as simple as saying, "I'm ready to share my light." Because once you declare it, the right doors will begin to respond. And you won't just be entering a new chapter, you'll be writing it. If you're still here listening, feeling, reflecting, then maybe that alone is a sign. A quiet confirmation that your heart is not as far from clarity as you once feared. Because this isn't just a video. This is a moment. A threshold. And Libra, you are standing right in front of a door that not everyone gets the chance to approach. The question now is not whether the door is open, it is. The question is, will you walk through it? You've spent this time witnessing where your fears have held you back, where your gifts are ready to be shared, and where love, real love, healthy love has been asking you to return to yourself. So now I ask you, gently but honestly, what would happen if you stopped waiting for permission to become everything you already are? What could change if, today, you chose to believe that your readiness is not something you're still trying to earn, but something that already lives inside you? There comes a moment when playing small starts to feel more painful than risking expansion. When the safe zone becomes a cage instead of a comfort. And if you felt that, even just a lit leaf, you've been hearing the whisper that says there's more for you, this might be that moment you stop whispering back and finally say yes. You don't have to do everything at once. You don't have to leap into something that feels too big. But you do have to move. Make one choice. Say one thing you've been holding in. Apply for that opportunity. Have that conversation. Begin the project that's been sitting in your heart for years. Not because it guarantees an outcome, but because you deserve the experience of becoming. Now I want to ask you directly, what's been pulling at you from the inside out? What's one door you're ready to open, even if you don't yet know what's on the other side? Write it in the comments. Or simply declare, I am Libra, and I am ready to walk through the door of destiny. There is power in speaking it. In choosing yourself, even when it feels uncertain. Especially when it feels uncertain. And if you felt seen, held, or inspired by anything in this reading, I invite you to take one more step. Like this video, subscribe to Zodiac Whisper Tarot, and share this message with someone who needs to be reminded that they are not alone on their path. Every small action you take sends a signal to the universe that you are present, engaged, and open to receive. Because here's what I know to be true, you were not born to be the background character in your own story. You were not born to simply balance the scales for others. You were born to create. To lead. To shape energy through your choices. And yes, to shine, not to blind others, but to light the way for those still stumbling in the dark. So as this reading closes, remember this, the door has been opened. The light is already spilling through. And what waits for you on the other side is not perfection, not certainty, but purpose, joy, and a version of you that no longer needs to prove, only to become. The only question that remains is, are you willing to take that step?